In this tutorial, we will show you how to create a project, which is the first step toward using the CBFDAP. This tutorial assumes that you have a user ID and a password. If you don't, make sure to request one from us by going to the Contact Us tab. You can think of your project as a big binder where you store all of your data for a given study. For example, your project contains the raw ASL data and clinical assessments that you upload for all your subjects. The project also contains the processed CBF maps and group analysis results that are generated after processing your raw data to the CBFDAP processing pipelines. So let's get started. First, you go to the CBF Burn website and select the Database tab. Log in with your user ID and password. Click this magnifying glass and it shows the list of projects you have under your account. Currently, you don't see anything because a project has yet to be created. To create a project, click here, the plus sign. Then type your experiment name. In this example, we'll use CBF_demo. Then add a brief description of this project. Note that your project name should be one word. If you want your project name to be more than one word, make sure to use a hyphen or underscore key to connect between the words as shown by this example. Then click Add. Also, since the name you assign to your project is stored permanently in the database, try to give a descriptive name to make it distinguishable from other projects in the database. If you have multiple projects, each having different research aims and experimental conditions, you can create multiple projects by repeating the steps we just showed you. Now that you created a project, the next step is to create experimental conditions. So here's what you do. Click the magnifying glass again to see the list of projects. Notice that now you can see one project which we just created. Double-click on the project. This is where you create experimental conditions, or what we call study groups. Experimental conditions or study groups are used to associate each subject data you upload to a specific condition. For example, if your study is looking at the effect of CBF on different dosage of caffeine consumption, say 100 milligrams, 200 milligrams, 500 milligrams versus control, you would add 4 different study groups here and name each group accordingly. For this tutorial, we will use a real caffeine study which looked at the effect of caffeine on CBF using 2 conditions: no caffeine versus 200 milligrams of caffeine intake. So we will create one study group called Control, and another study group called Caffeine_200 milligrams. That's how you create a project and study conditions. In closing, here are a few important notes. First, each time you upload raw data for a subject, you are required to associate that subject with one of the study groups or experimental conditions at the time of the upload. We will go over how you can do this in the next video tutorial. Second, all your processed CBF maps will be grouped according to your study groups. So later, when you want to review all processed CBF maps, you can go to the CBF Processing Summary page that will show you the CBF maps for your subjects as well as the experimental condition under which each data was acquired. Again, we will show you how to access this summary page in a later tutorial. Third, you can use your study groups or experimental conditions to perform different types of group analysis. We will cover this in a future tutorial as well. Finally, you can think of the study groups you added as different levels of an experimental factor. So what we have is a one-factor, N-level study design. What if you want to incorporate more than one factor in your study? Or what if your study has a repeated measures design? The CBFDAP does support multi-factor and/or repeated measures study design, but currently for these special cases, we would need to accommodate them from the back end. We are currently working on a user interface that will allow you to create a study design of any complexity, but until then, please use the current interface using the study groups for one factor N-level study. And if you have something more complicated, please contact us by going to the Contact Us tab.